Hi, everybody. It's Kelly from the Hub here today with our friend Todd from Tabor Community Services. How are you there?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Been doing very well. Remember that Todd is our absolute resident expert on all things financial. He just really gives us the opportunity to keep a few extra dollars in our pocket every time that we talk to him. We've talked about savings with your medical stuff in a couple of different ways. We've talked about all those financial myths that we're like, oh yeah, we some of us fell into the trap on some of those. So today we're going to talk about savings. I think this is one of the things that we all wish we could do a lot more of, but then we fall into the ooh, bright and shiny, new, has a
I know that.
motor or whatever
Yep.
it is that's your favorite thing that you want to buy, higher heels, whatever whatever it is. So, Todd, here's the first question. Well, we'll just ask it. When should you start to save? I mean, we all, as a little kid, well, maybe not all, a lot of us, when we got our first whatever amount that money was, our parent or somebody took us to the bank. We got that cool little book that shows us how to do it, and we put our birthday money or whatever it was in the bank and then got a lollipop, and that was the best day ever.
Yes, what they called the Passbook Savings. So that was a rite of passage for many of folk. I worked in banking for years, and we did lots of different things for the kids to kind of try to promote starting early. I think from one of our previous conversations, it's being proactive.
Yeah.
And even most people say, well, I can't save because I'm in debt, or
Yeah.
I can't save because I'm having a hard time or whatever. And don't get me wrong, if you don't have a job or your hours have been cut and you can't pay your normal bills, it may not be the best time to start to save.
Right.
But each one of us has ways that we can save even in hard times. Uh, I I'll use the example with my kids and myself. I'm a collector of metal stuff. So if there are aluminum cans or any other metal thing in my house and it goes bad and it's made of metal, my grill or something else, I take it to the recycling place. There's a few of them around. If you look up on the online like metal recycling in Lancaster area or wherever you're at, um, usually there's one within a reasonable amount of distance. I think we're pretty well covered in the Lancaster City area. Now, as you get further away from that, it might be a little more challenging. But I bring my cans and I bring the other metal things when I accumulate some, and I might get $5, I may get $15, I may get $120, depending on what I'm bringing in. And it's kind of like the stock market. One day, one metal is worth more on another day. So sometimes I'll call in and say, what's the prices look like for this type of metal? Might sound silly, like maybe in your garage or in an old house, you have these old radiators that are made of cast iron. Well,
Oh.
they might be worth a couple $100, or better yet, you list them on something like Craigslist, and you'll probably get even more because people remodel and they need those things. What the problem that drives me crazy is we can't save because we pay someone to get rid of it.
Yep.
So we take it to the dump and they charge us $35. And if you go to the dump and you just take a couch, it's $35. If you take a whole load of stuff, it's $35,
Hmm.
unless it's like extremely, extremely heavy.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go there, you might as well fill up the back of your truck or your friend's truck or whatever. If you're going to pay, make sure you get your money's worth. But if you can do something like that, whether you're listing something on Craigslist or eBay or something like that, something that's been around the house that you don't use, uh, kids' clothing, shoes, if they're in good condition, all those type of things, you can try to find a way to make money when you're not actually making money. Now, obviously, those things don't always happen and those can run out. But if you have income coming in and you're just not tracking it, you're not doing a spending and savings plan each month, you don't have it planned ahead, then I would start with that. But then what you do is you actually start saving, where you say, I'm just going to take $5 and I'm going to put it in this jar at home. or I'm going to put it in a separate account at the bank. I always check, make sure that the bank isn't going to charge you a fee for having the account, because some of them, a lot of them, if you're not over a certain dollar amount, they're going to charge you a monthly fee.
And it's usually
So
sort of like a high-ish dollar amount.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I put in $10. In the fee for not being over 100 is $10. Guess what? No savings.
Right.
So yeah, you need to check that type of thing, but I would be hesitant to put it in your checking account if it's for savings, because if it's in there, that's the spending zone. I spend the money that's in my checking account. I save the money in my savings account or in the jar here at the house or whatever. But those are the type of things that you can try to do. But you always want to start with a plan so you know how much money you're making, how much money you're spending, and then you can allot how much you can save. Start small. And then when you find out, hey, that wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be, then you can move up. Start with $5, go to 10, go to 15, whatever at that point. I run into people all the time says, I'd like to save for this car, house, whatever. And I was like, well, what are you saving now? And look at me like, what do you mean? I haven't been saving because I didn't have any reason to save. Well, I usually ask, has your car ever broken down? Well, yeah, of course. Does your car need tires every once in a while? Those type of things. Maintenance things are something you can save for. Yeah, I love it when someone came in and said, I just paid off my car. I said, great, can we open a savings account for you today? They're like, what's that got to do with paying off my car? Well, how much were you paying? $200 a month. Great, let's open a savings. We'll automatically move $200 a month into your savings the same exact day that you used to pay your car loan. Because guess what? The car doesn't get any better with age.
Right.
Things tend to break down. Even a Rolls Royce needs new tires. So it's one of those type of things that when you have repairs, you now have the money set aside for repairs, or better yet, new car.
Yeah.
So you're ahead of the game, because normally what ends up happening is that $200 that you've spent gets absorbed into everything else, and then the shiny things happen, and the wants versus needs start to invade your mind.
Right. We've talked about that before, and a lot of us are excited about the wants and realize that none of those are needs. I've seen some things on Pinterest, and I'm just going to say this because I know that there are a lot of people out there who are on Pinterest. And so there's these pins that say, if you want to save this much money, you do like like you save $10,000. Oh, there's a sneeze coming. That's the beauty of live videos. So that, like, let's say you want to save whatever, $1,000. So they tell you week 1, $5, week 2, $6, week 3, $7. And then they like put it into like perspective and show you how to do it. So then week 17, $27 or whatever the whole thing is, so that it like plans it out for you. I've looked at those, and yes, you can do the math, and yes, it works out to the amount. Are those like helpful? Is it helpful for people to use those kinds of like guides? I just don't know. I think sometimes they look like they're too easy. Some of them look like they're too hard. I don't know. Is that like, how do you even make your plan?
Well, folks are trying to, when you see those type of things, they're trying to get you into a habit. So if it works for you, great. I don't think that there's no silver bullet here that's going to help every person. I like to say, you know you the best. If you think that you would spend the money, then have a very regimented way to save it.
Okay.
I'm a spender. I know that I'm a spender, and I don't like to buy cheap stuff. I like to buy nice stuff when I buy it.
Yeah.
So there's like good, better, best. I want to buy the best if I can afford it. Um, but basically, what it comes down to is I've had to force myself into saying, okay, definite wants and needs. And I had to say, okay, I'm going to move X amount of dollars over. Now, if you just do it $1, $2, $3, work your way up each week, it builds a habit, and it doesn't feel as painful because you start off small. But at some point, it's going to become unrealistic because you don't have that extra cash that week, and then that might be defeating. I'd rather you get a budget, a spending savings plan in place, and know exactly what you can save. And just because you could save $100 doesn't mean you have to. If you can save 50 of that, that's awesome. If you could do that on a monthly basis, that's great. And then the other 50 is, hey, that can be some of the wants stuff. You want to be able to satisfy some of the wants and needs in your process as you do it. But if you don't have a plan, you don't know if you're now spending $50 of your rent,
I
and you
think
can't
that's
pay
the
the bill.
best. I think that's some of the best advice I've ever heard. If you could save $100, it doesn't mean that you should. You have to, what works for you? I mean, I absolutely know someone who's, let's just say, I'm going to use the not nice word. He's such a tightwad that if he had $117, he would save that because that's just his mindset about doing that. And so even though he can afford, I think, the Taj Mahal and the White House and British Parliament, he buys things from Goodwill because that's just his habit. So, which is not bad. It's just being around him can be a little challenging sometimes.
Well,
But you have to make it realistic. And I think that you're right. That's the best way. If you can save $100, you should do it. If you have $100 that's savable and you choose to save 50 and you know that you can maintain that over time, knowing that the world is complicated, then you should do that because you know you're going to be more consistent that way.
yeah, and I know, like, there was an older couple that used to come into the bank all the time. They were my buddies. They would come in, they always asked for me, and they were millionaires. They had over $1 million in just the one account with us. He grew up and she grew up during the Great Depression. Older couple. He's now passed on, and but I was talking with his daughters and everything else. His daughters didn't know he had that money. They found out before he passed away and stuff when he went into a nursing home. But the places I ran into them was Kmart and McDonald's, all on a regular basis. And he would come in sweatpants and a t-shirt, and we joked around and had fun and everything else. And but you would have never known that he had any money at all. And that's how he grew up. In the Great Depression, he was selling newspapers and he was running errands and doing all these different things. He knew the value of a dollar, and he knew the value of not having a dollar. So it's all in the mindset of how you treat that and what type of respect you have for it. But it's one of those type of things that number one, you have to get started. And number two, you can save for multiple things. When I worked at the credit union, you can actually, on their website, and you can do this in other places, you as the user of the online banking, you can go in and change the name of the account, like the savings account. You can put Cancun. And when you would come into the credit union and you came to the counter, Kelly, and you were saving to go to Cancun, I go, how's Cancun sounding? And you would look at me like, how did you know I was saving for Cancun? I'm like, I saw your savings account. It says Cancun. So you can do that. You could say car, vacation, new refrigerator, whatever it is at that point. That's separate from your emergency savings.
Yeah.
There's an emergency savings account. You can just label that your normal savings, but then you can do piecemeal. So again, if your friend has $117, I'd recommend for him 50 goes in this account, 50 goes in this account, 17 goes into this account, and you have different savings goals. I would make them small at first. It's nice to hit your goals. If you say, my goal is to buy a new house, so I'm going to save $100,000. Well, I guarantee you probably won't make it unless you make way more money than most people. And you're going to give up way before you get there.
Right.
But if you say, this year I'm going to save $1,000, that might be doable. It might not be. Maybe $500 is all you can do. But if you make a goal that's realistic, it's time bound, that you understand that it's going to be from this date to this date is when you'd like to save it. those type of things, like something simple. I could say right now, I'm going to save $1,000 this year towards a new car. And then I get my tax return and take 1,000 and put it in an account. Done. I just did it.
Right. Right.
Now,
Right.
I didn't gain a habit yet, but
Right.
at least I met my goal.
Right.
So make your goals realistic, but also trying to stretch yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So let me ask this question. For someone starting out, is it better to get a savings account or like an account like that at a credit union rather than doing like CDs or stocks or other sort of like investment things?
Normally, you have to have a nest egg of funding to get that started. Now, don't mean that you have to have tens of thousands of dollars. A certificate of deposit might start as low as $100 to $200. So you can't start it with $10 in most cases. So a savings account would be the best driver there. Again, you know you the best. If you can stick it in a jar at the house until you get a couple $100, then do it. If you know you will go and creep in and I'm going to call Uber Eats and order out tonight, then you probably don't want to do that. I've had some folks that know, again, they know they'll spend it. So if they bank at ABC Bank, their savings is at XYZ Bank. They put them at two different locations. That way they don't have the temptation to pull the money out.
Oh, that's a very good idea. So to start out, it's probably best to do a simple savings account and then work your way up to, once you've made the habit and then done it for a little bit and feel a little better about it, then you could talk to somebody at your bank or a financial advisor or whatever to like taking the next step. But start small first so that it feels comfortable and makes sense.
Yeah, I would say $500 is the first milestone. You could start looking at certificates of deposit. The next step after that would probably, when you're over 1,000, even at the 500, you could still start like an IRA.
Oh, okay.
Individual retirement account.
Yeah.
A lot of people get confused with IRAs. IRAs are nothing mystical. It's just a label we slap on a certificate of deposit or a savings account or other types of accounts. It's just a label they put on it that says this money is for your retirement.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you get into those, you can't take the money out until you're 59 and a half, or you're going to get a large penalty. Same thing with
so
regular.
It can't be like your other savings account that you're not really saving, that you're dipping into now and again. That is nobody touches it for a long time amount. And I don't want to go too far down that path, but those accounts are not based on the stock market, right? Mostly those accounts sort of, if you put in $10,000, you can take $10,000 out. There may or may not be some interest, but they don't go up and down with the stock market, right?
Normally not. Some of them, well, they won't go with the stock market. There's CDs that bump up automatically over a 3-year period.
Okay.
They're called bump up rates and stuff. So there are ones that they do adjust in rate, usually up, not down. But if you walk into the bank and say, I want to talk about FDIC insured products, you will not be talking about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and all that type of stuff.
Right.
They're bank guaranteed products. So if you're talking to a teller, a banker, a manager, all those type of people, they can only talk about FDIC insured products.
Yeah.
So if you walk in and have them ask them a question about a mutual fund, they legally can't answer those questions. They have to send you to a financial advisor. And those financial advisors will tell you as soon as you sit down with them that we are not FDIC insured.
Right.
We sell you products that are SPIC insured, which is a separate type of thing for basically things that are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all those type of things that could have a loss to them. They could have a loss of not only the interest, but also to your principal, the amount of money you put in.
just as a small little thing for those of you who are thinking about this, FDIC was an organization, a governmental organization that was created after the stock market crash in 1929 to make sure, because remember, if you remember back to your school days, in 1929, people lost all their money because the banks were not insured against those kinds of big losses. And remember, people killed themselves and companies went under and it was horrible. So after that, the government created an insurance program to make sure that the money that you put in would be there when you took it out. So that's what a FDIC is. And you'll see those little stickers on pretty much every single bank you walk into. Banks. They're on banks and like credit unions and stuff.
Yeah, they have to. It's by law.
Yeah,
it should be in every office. It should be at every teller line.
Yeah.
Yep. So all those things are on there.
Yeah. So, okay. So thank you for helping us with that, because I know that there are some times where people use, it gets complicated, stocks and IRAs, and sometimes all those words get a little complicated. So that's good. All right, here's the big question. And I know it's February, but you and I have had this conversation before. Okay. When should I start saving for holiday presents? And it could be, let's just say it's winter holidays.
Yesterday. Yeah, basically.
This is why Todd is amazing. Because Todd and I did a program like 2 Octobers ago, and I was talking about, well, should we start talking about saving for the holidays? And Todd said to me, Kelly, you don't save for the holidays on October 31st. You save for the holidays on December 26th.
Yep.
For the next year. And I went, you're right. But that's one of those things that we sort of don't, lots of us don't really start thinking about saving for holidays or, and birthday presents, all those kinds of present-y things that you do with your family, whatever season that is. You don't start doing it until it's sort of close to that season, until you get in the holiday spirit, so to speak. So the answer is yesterday, huh? I should start saving for the holidays yesterday.
Yes, as soon as possible, basically. Okay. But yeah, if you start in October, it's for the next year. It's not for that December. It's for the December after, which is great. And some of the credit unions, I don't think many banks still, but some of the credit unions still have Christmas Club accounts that usually fund out in October. So they have a separate account that's just for Christmas. In that Christmas account, they also have vacation account ones too, or at least they used to. But the Christmas account one usually has a slightly higher interest rate than your normal savings account.
Huh.
Now, don't get excited because, if you have $1,000 in it, you might make 30 cents more over the year. So it's not like the interest rates are still stupid low.
Right.
But it's one of those type of things that you do make a little bit more interest. Obviously, the more money you have in there, the more interest you're earning. Some of them have bonuses. You want to ask your bank, sometimes they give you a gift card if you reach your goal. So it's those type of things that you want to make sure that you ask all the questions. That the biggest one is, does it have a fee? And if so, how much? Also, if you get in a Christmas club or a vacation club, if you take it out early, there's a penalty. So you want to ask the questions before you do it. Those are next step savings accounts. They're not the emergency savings account. You want to find an emergency account that's going to charge you nothing. And then go from there, adding these other accounts as you build savings.
And this is one of those things, you say this all the time, just start.
Yes.
Just start. We all put off all those things all the time because it's a pain. And so both of our advice to everybody who's watching is just start. Make it a habit and then it'll be fine. Yeah, just like anything else. Right. Just like nobody gets off the couch and runs a marathon. And if they do, well,
that's when they drop dead.
Right. I was going to say, there's not going to be good results. Nobody, walks into the doctor's offices and loses 100 pounds the next day. It's just not possible. So savings and all of those kinds of things are exactly the same. Start small and make it a habit.
I know,
Thank
like
you,
for
Todd.
with retirement, at work, when I first started retirement stuff, no one explained it to me. I started like 4 or 5%, whatever the minimum was for the retirement. But I had it. Some of them will allow you to automatically go up 1% each year, and I just let it go. If they don't do it at your work, go ahead and request it once a year when they have open enrollment to just go 1%. I guarantee you, you won't even feel it.
Right. But
And
that adds
by
up over time.
yes,
Especially if you, I mean, you know, a lot of us strive to stay in the same job for a long time because, especially for retirement, that you're building up all that stuff. So, yeah, yeah.
yep,
It's the little, I mean, truly, as everybody says, it's the little things that count. So, you just got to start it.
amen.
Savings is like anything else. Todd, as always, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. We will talk to Todd again soon. And in the meantime, put $5 in a jar. See you, everybody.
See you later.